Hello everyone and welcome to episode 35 of the SATO Briefing series. Today we're going to be talking about a number of things. Mostly it's going to be continuing what I call our spring insanity development stuff with all the projects we have going on and little updates on those, as well as some Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 updates. It's been a while since I've talked about that, but there's some things that have come up recently that all kind of uh, overlap in some of the topics we're going to be talking about today. So um, we'll get to those here in a second. So in front of me here, we've got the next S2 and the S2 conversion or and update series for Prepared 3D. And everyone knows that, or was paying attention in the last series of updates and stuff like that. We've had the release of the S2 F3ATs, the Cal Fire version of the Turbo Tracker. And since that release, I moved on to the Conair Turbo Firecats. So this in front of me here is one of the updated ones. Luckily, with this project, it's going along a lot faster because a lot of the updates that I did with the other S2 transfer over to this one, which includes some of the contact point changes and things like that for ground handling improvements. And I've already added those flight dynamics changes and some. I'm still dabbling with maybe changing the sounds on these, but the good news with that is that there is not as many airplanes that I have to repaint, and most of the other changes that I did with the other S2 are not needed on this airplane. So, uh, like I said, hopefully that means that this process will be going a lot faster. So, once I'm done and satisfied with the lighting section of this airplane, I will move on to doing repaints more thoroughly. I've only done a few repaints so far, this being one of them. I've done the two anniversary paints that the Firecats had. One is the 30th anniversary edition. You might have seen me release some preview shots on the Facebook page and Discord channel of that one. This one I just recently completed, and it's the 20th anniversary edition of the trackers in service with France. Um, this one I just completed in the last couple of days, so I will probably start on the regular line aircraft here pretty soon. Being as that, like I said, most of the other things that I had to work on, I don't really need to work on with this airplane because the flight dynamics and everything were pretty close out of the box, so to speak. So, as you can kind of see if you're familiar with the original airplane, the way that it's sitting currently is how they sit in the empty configuration, which is a little bit taller. Whenever they're full of retardant, they kind of the S2s tend to sag a little bit in the rear. So before they were a little too aggressive in that sense. So one of the things I did with the contact point changes was adjust that the way that the airplane sits. So it's a minor thing. But and also with the contact point changes, I also made it so that the nose wheel steering is a little more effective. In the real airplane, they use differential braking and thrust in the propellers and everything to manage their ground handling. But I felt like in both the S2 F3ATs and these, it was a little too stiff, if you will. Even with differential braking and things like that, you couldn't really turn the airplane unless you had, a secondary throttle setup, which not many people tend to do. So I kind of made it a more universal handling um, in changing the way that it handled on the ground a little bit. Milton and team did have a secondary option for contact points in their airplane files for that exact reason, and I did sort of use that and base that off of what I modified them as the way that they sit now as well. So I wasn't entirely on me. That was also provided out of the box, as I say, from Milton and his crew that put these together. But as far as the rest of the airplane goes, it's going pretty well. I've sort of freshened up the paints a little bit. They're not so duty worn looking. They still are, like I said, they got some of the staining and stuff like that, but a lot of the shadowing that was done on the base paint I've taken out because with P3D and adding PBR to them, like I have that additional look of the shadowing isn't needed. So I took that out of the paints, so it looks a little fresher and a little more. It doesn't look so dark. So, but like I said, the worn look for the exhaust staining and stuff like that, what I left on because that's realistic. So, um, in terms of those, we've got these that are coming along quite well. I've also got a several aircraft update coming for the C-130 Hercules. So that includes not only the MAFS airplanes, but it also includes the tanker versions. Um, so the MAFs are military, U.S. military-based C-130s using the what I call the giant squirt gun out the left-hand side of the rear cargo or not cargo the paratrooper door. So I've redesigned that snork or the the cannon essentially the water cannon that sticks out the side of the airplane. I've remodeled that from my original series that I released. So all the aircraft that come with P3D, the C-130H and the C-130Js, those will be based on the aircraft that come with P3D already. So basically it'll be one of those mods. If you don't have the original pack that I released, you use the base package aircraft as the base, and you just kind of slap these models into those base files as an add-on. It's kind of like I've done with some of these other payware aircraft. It's the same thing. So it only works with the P3D provided C-130s. It does not work with the Captain Sim C-130s. I know they're based on the Captain Sim C-130s, but in order to stay within the licensed stuff, you need to use the P3D versions. So, and those will should work from P3D version 4 all the way up to version 6. Um, I'm hoping they should anyway. Those all have PBR and stuff added to them. Um, they have just like we have the C-130H3, which is the NP2000 8-bladed propeller. I have that. I've got all the added military accessories to the airplane that the actual H models have. So in the Captain Sim versions, a lot of that is missing. Just because the age of the platform is so old. It's from FS 2004, I think. They've only slightly modernized it as the Sims have gone on. But yeah, so some of that military equipment has been added to them, like flare buckets and stuff like that. So those have been added to the military versions, along with the updated MAFS system, MAFS 2 system. And then the other tanker C-130s, which I will come out with in another pack, which will have the C-130Hs I'm doing first, and then the C-130As. So the only C-130 that I've released that won't get an update was the original MAFS C-130 with the dual nozzle out the rear cargo doors. That one won't be needing an update, but all the rest of them will. So in terms of the other C-130s, you'll have the Coulson C-130s. So the EC-130Q with the blocked out kick panel windows. There'll be that version. There will be the typical H models like the rest of their fleet. There will also be the HC-130H, which is the version that that Cal Fire uses with the converted Coast Guard versions. So there'll be a version with that with the belly tank door in the bottom, as like I said, the Coulson ships will have. And I think that's it for that package. So you'll have the S2Ts coming for, like I said, the Turbo Firecats. Then probably the MAF C-130s. I think. I don't know when I'll start on the model stuff for the other C-130s. Those are mostly converted. I did some propeller modifications to them as well because the propellers weren't correctly positioned somehow in my conversion process. I messed that up. So that's another thing that I meant to fix with the update. Then C-130As will come a little bit later on down the road. So, and then obviously then the S2As I'll get to out once these are released, and And then the last helicopter or aircraft I'm going to be doing is obviously the K-Max. I haven't done much work on the K-Max because I've been trying to focus on the fixed wing stuff for right now, because really the only thing left with the K-Max is kind of finishing the cockpit and doing all the rest of the repaints for it. So um, once that's kind of done, I'll have like a kind of a queue kind of set up of what stuff is going to be released. So it'll just kind of hopefully be, I'll get all of them done, and then it'll be like a weekly release basis, hopefully, kind of how I'm trying to get this done. So like 1 week we'll have the S2s come out, then the next week hopefully the C-130 maps will come out, then the week after that will be the S2As, and then the C-130Hs, and then C-130As, and then so on and so forth. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. So, I think that basically covers most of the P3D aspect of all these. And yes, like I said, all these are for P3D. Um, I've gotten a lot of questions in some of the videos on here on YouTube, and then some questions on Facebook with some of the newer people that have come in. We primarily develop for P3D right now only. We don't have any add-ons for um, 2024 except for Jeremy on his Flying J simulations page. He has Hemet Ryan base scenery, and we've got the S2 F3AT that's in development for 2024. Now, as I'm kind of going into 2024, we have our S2 F3AT that's in development still. Um, Maybe I can get an update out of Jeremy if he's starting to work on it again or not. But we can kind of get back to that whenever I have some more information I can relay to you guys in terms of that. But it's not dead. It's just been delayed due to a lot of issues with 2024's development kit not being finished and not having a lot of stuff we can do. We're kind of like frozen in time, basically. But stuff is being done for it. I think the last time I updated you guys, Jeremy's trying to put together a really authentic sounding S2, both internally and externally. So trying to set up doing recordings and stuff like that throughout fire season and stuff like that. Plus, he's working his other jobs and stuff like that. So that's a little time consuming to try and do on top of like I said, the development issues with the sim itself. But like I said, it's still in development. I've come back to the Microsoft Flight Sims forums. I took a break from there because of frustration. But I have come back on there, and I'm going to try and keep trying to push the firefighting aspect, because we have very little voice in those forums, and it shows, because I left that forum for about 4.5, 5 months, didn't check emails, messages, anything. And I came back hoping that something had changed, and literally not a single thing has changed in the firefighting aspect for that sim, which is extremely disappointing. But it's not all doom and gloom. So, the interesting thing is that there's been some developments in the third-party department, and while Microsoft has basically, and Asoba have basically done zilch. So, one of the major things that I wanted to talk about, and since I've got the Turbo Firecat in front of me, is that Azure Poly, let me bring that up here on a secondary screen. Azure Poly, as people may know, Azure Poly, they've got several add-ons out, including like the Transall, which the Transall, what is that? I don't remember what it is offhand. But it's basically, in Australia, they've converted several of them. McDermott has into firefighting aircraft. Well, they have one, and that kind of makes for an interesting platform to use for firefighting, at least in Australia. Now, I'll get to why that's important here in a little bit down the line after I get to this. Now, you recognize this is an S2. This is the Turbo Firecat. So not only are we, as in Simulated Air Tanker Operators, working on the Cal Fire version, but now Azure Poly has a S2F or S2T in development. So, but I don't know how much sooner we have to wait for it to come out, but I'm kind of excited for that because Azure Poly does really good stuff. They've already got an OV10 out too that has some Cal Fire stuff on it. So there's some promise coming that will actually have a retardant based tanker that we can use in the sim. Now that's a big deal because everything else in the sim is either non-functional or it's a mod. So like you've got the scoopers basically. You've got the CL415, which I've gone over, and if you've read any of my forum posts, I beat a dead horse basically. The thing doesn't fly right. It's got some major power issues and stuff like that wrong with it. And then you've got the AT802, which still flies, I think, decently. Maybe it needs a little tweaking, but they didn't give you they gave you almost all the versions except for the firefighting version that carries retardant, the wheeled version. So, and you can have the wheeled version now. Somebody came out with a mod for that, and I believe I posted a thing about that on the Facebook page a while back whenever it came out. But it's a mod that you can actually fly the wheeled tanker version, which up till that point is the only other retardant based tanker that you could physically use in the sim, because the super tanker, the 747 super tanker, you can't use it unless you're in career mode, which, and then I guess in career mode it's nearly impossible to use anyway. I don't know. I haven't really used the sim a whole lot to even get to that point, because the aspect on how it's used is just it's entirely incorrect. But anyway, um, this is kind of a big deal because, like I said, we've got a big major developer making a tanker, which is cool to me. Now, the other thing that's come out recently is that a company has come out with FS Fire. FS Fire essentially is not like the other several other uh, kind of firefighting related things that have come out for Microsoft Flight Simulator. This one is as close to how Firefighter X works as anything I've seen so far. This basically takes any airplane or helicopter and uses the built-in attachment system for that sim so that you can attach any of that firefighting stuff to it, like a bucket. You can attach a firefighting bucket to any helicopter, and you can drop water or retardant from any airplane, which is a huge deal. The other thing that's a big deal is it's multiplayer syncing, which means if somebody hosts a server, a server for flying in, if they're running this and you are running it, it will sync everything that the host has on their setup and the mission system. This is based on the mission system. Um, it will sync their machine to your machine, so everyone will see the exact same scene, and you can build an entire scene with this. So you can have ground vehicles all set together around a fire, for example, or a rescue operation of some type, or both fire and rescue operation at once. Um, and it syncs on multiplayer. You can see retardant drops and all that in the server and stuff like that. Now, the only thing I can't say yet is I don't have this. I haven't bought this yet, but I just recently came across it. Plus, a user suggested or posted about it in our Discord server. But I don't know if that means you can see the retardant on the ground like you can in in our operations in P3D. That's kind of a minor thing. What this thing does is that basically gives you all that compatibility that and abilities that Firefighter X did. A lot of them you get with this program, which is a big freaking deal. None of the other ones before did any of this. Plus, like I said, this comes with a single player, and it comes with a mission system with built in with like 300 missions. So it's a huge deal for that aspect because, like I said, you can do single player missions or you can do multiplayer ops with your friends. Um, the other big deal with this is that it interacts with the sim weather. Why is that a big deal? Now you probably can hear or where this is going is that the fire that's placed in the sim, it will respond to the weather in the sim, which means you will get downwind spread of the fire, which is a big deal. So the weather system in this sim. So if you got 25-mile-an-hour winds, it will blow this fire and spread it. And we've had some preliminary interactions with the community and the developer for this, and they have also are very open to suggestions and updates and things like that from the community, which is also a big plus. So right now, we do know that retardant now will delay fires as well as kind of put them out in direct attack, which is kind of how retardant is used versus water, which is only used in direct attack usually. So there's that aspect too. So there's got two different uses for retardant and water. The fact that it spreads with the weather in the sim, so especially the wind aspect of that. So that's a big freaking deal for Flight Simulator. So now, in terms of where this means in terms of the attachment system, now whether they've unlocked how being able to attach stuff to other airplanes is something they've been able to do now, I'm not 100% sure. Hopefully, there's going to be some more interacting with the developer, and maybe some more information will come out about how they do this sort of thing, because then that will also open up a lot of stuff for the modification world, hopefully once the SDK stuff is figured out, and it's a lot easier for us developers to in the freeware aspect to make, say, retardant tanks and things like that and attach them to regular airplanes that don't have them. Sort of a thing. Yeah, it's I know it's like an aesthetic value, but a lot of us are kind of nitpicky when it comes to the look of an airplane and how you're flying it for like this type of stuff. But that will be something that comes down the road. At least we have something that's come out that will hopefully be a lot better than whatever Asobo and Microsoft have clearly given us, because that is just, it's been out for over we're talking 2 years, and they haven't done anything to improve firefighting stuff in this sim at all. I mean, the sky crane and stuff like that still have no firefighting capability. I mean, what's up with that? Um, but I don't really want to get into nitpicking them any further, because I've already been on their case since I got this sim, over 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. So, um, but yeah, I think that's just kind of some of the stuff I wanted to cover in this one. I know it's a lot to kind of I tried to cram in there, and if it's a little bit too much, um, maybe come back at it in bursts, if you will. I kind of try to talk, like I said, about a lot of stuff in a short period of time, so try to keep these under 20 minutes at a time. Um, so yeah, thanks for tuning into this one, and tune into the next one.